We're here with a park expert, John Athanason from Florida's Adventure Coast. John spent 20 years working on the staff here at Weeki Wachee State Park. So John, could you maybe explain a little bit of history on Weeki Wachee State Park and kind of where it used to be like in the 50s when it was first started to where it is today?
Sure. Well, Weeki Wachee Springs State Park was opened on October 13th, 1947. So this year we're celebrating the 75th anniversary of the park. And it was opened by a gentleman named Newton Perry, and he was a visionary. He was an expert swimmer, diver, inventor. In fact, he developed the air hose, the breathing apparatus that the mermaids still use to this day. And so his idea was to take the concept of synchronized swimming, which was always on the surface of the water, and implement it underwater. So on October 13th, 1947, when he opened the doors, he had hired a bunch of, and when I say hired, he just fed them lunch. There was no pay involved. It brought some synchronized swimmers to the park, taught them how to use the air hose, and they created what they did on the top of the water, but underwater. And that's how Weeki Wachee began, and that's how the Mermaids began.
And that's awesome. I remember being a kid coming into the park and sitting there and watching the Mermaid Show and, you know, thinking it was so cool that these people got an opportunity to breathe underwater and, you know, kind of do all that. So, you know, as a kid, you love that kind of stuff, right? And so to see that it's still happening today, you know, what, 75 years later is awesome.
It is. I mean, and Weeki Wachee is probably the only remaining roadside attraction of its kind in Florida. You know, when I say roadside attraction, you know, US 19 here is a major thoroughfare in Florida. So think about it, in 1947, there was no I-75, no interstates at all.
Yeah.
And Florida was no different then than it is now. It's still a popular vacation destination. You've got the sun, you've got the beaches. And so when people flocked to Florida
got the
in the late
springs.
40s, 50s, 60s, they came down this road, US 19. And fortunately for Newton Perry, the spring was right next to the road. So back then, advertising was a little bit different.
Yeah.
So in order to bring people into the park, the mermaids would go out in their bathing suits and wave to the traffic going by, and then people would just find their way into the park. So it's got so much history, and this year, Florida's Adventure Coast is really celebrating over 7 decades of this amazing, charming, and magical attraction as part of Florida's biggest industry, and that's tourism. So we're very fortunate that this park is here on Florida's Adventure Coast in Hernando County.
And also, maybe want to touch on Buccaneer Bay a little bit. I remember as a kid growing up, loving coming to Buccaneer Bay. When I got my license, would drive my buddies and all of us out here, and we would sit at the Buccaneer Bay and jump off the, you know, the platform or go down the slides or just swim in the beautiful clear water that you could see.
Right, and Buccaneer Bay is Florida's only spring-fed water park. And you know, here in Hernando County, it really offers fun place to swim. Parents or guardians can really relax a little bit because we have lifeguards here. You're swimming in pristine 72 degree, 99.9% pure spring water. The slides that the park has go right into the spring itself. There's a kiddie pool, a tiki bar for the adults, there's beach sand, volleyball. I mean, there's so much activity here at Weeki Wachee Springs for everyone to enjoy.
Yeah, so for those of you who love swimming in the hot Florida heat in the summertime, Buccaneer Bay has a beautiful spring that he said 72 degrees year round, so come out here and cool off. So John, if you will, let's take us around the park and kind of show us some of the cool things about Weeki Wachee.
Sounds good, let's go.
All right. So with the many attractions that they have here at Weeki Wachee State Park, one of the main ones would be the Wilderness Cruise. So maybe explain a little bit about the Wilderness Cruise.
Yeah, the River Wilderness Cruise. The River Wilderness Cruise is a cruise that just takes our visitors a little bit further down the Weeki Wachee River. We want to show them basically Florida at its best, the natural Florida.
Yes.
So you'll never see, no cruise is alike. Every trip is different. You might see a gator basking in the sun, you know, in the sun on the bank, or you might see birds or manatees. And it's a guided tour, so our guide basically talks about the environment, what we can do to help preserve it. It's about a 25-minute ride, but it's really relaxing, really serene, and it's really a must do when you come to the park.
Yeah, I think as a kid, when I remember coming here, outside of the Mermaid Show, which we'll talk about soon enough, is the boat ride. Every kid likes to go on the boat, and they love to see alligators, or maybe if you get lucky, maybe you see a manatee. right? So yeah, the wildlife and the naturalness of it here at the state park, you're surrounded by it. So I know we also have some other attractions at the park. What would you say are some of the main highlights to go into?
You know, I always recommend people when you first come to the park, do the riverboat first.
Okay.
You know, because it's very popular and the boat can only hold so many people. Make it a priority. I mean, the Mermaids perform 3 times a day, so you can catch one of the shows. But I always say do the boat ride first because it'll really set the tone for the rest of your stay.
That's a good point. And then they also have a amphitheater over here. What is the amphitheater for?
Well, the amphitheater here is used for special events. You know, sometimes the park will do after-hours concerts or other events. One of the other programs that the park offers is a ranger program where a park ranger will bring out species of animals that are native to Florida. They might bring out a gator or a snake and really make it a fun but yet educational type of program where people can sometimes even go up and pet, you know, the little animals. But that's also really something that people always should see.
Yeah, I brought my daughters here before, and you know, they loved the Mermaid Show, obviously, but I remember them being up there, and they had one of the park rangers out there with some animals,
Yes.
and they got to go and hold them or play with them or touch
there's
them
not
and all
too
that
many
kind of
places
stuff.
that you can do something like that.
No, you can't.
And this is a state park, which is wonderful. So it really highlights the natural Florida, and that's what this park really, aside from the mermaids, which is culturally significant to this park, the park really tries to accentuate natural Florida, nature, animals that are native to Florida. The riverboat cruise is a prime example of that, where we take you down this first magnitude spring, this beautiful river that's worth preserving, and to see the native wildlife that exists in this habitat.
Yeah, and for those of you or for that have visited the Nature Coast, or for those of you who have lived in the Nature Coast, you understand what we're talking about here. It has a vastness and a beauty to it that you find in no other place in Florida, it seems like.
Correct.
And so, you know, if you are looking to explore different places in the Nature Coast, folks like John here from Florida's Adventure Coast are the people to look for and ask those questions of. Maybe explain a little bit about the Florida's Adventure Coast and kind of what you guys are responsible for this area.
Well, Florida's Adventure Coast is our brand for everything tourism in Hernando County. We really feature what this county offers in its outdoor recreation. Whether it's from the beaches really at Pine Island, the fishing off of Bayport, to the parks here like Weeki Wachee, the history that exists in downtown Brooksville, all the way to Rich Loam General Store on the other side of the county, which is a very unique old general store that was built in the 1900s. So we really accentuate on the history, but the nature of this area. It's just absolutely beautiful. And that's why we call it Florida's Adventure Coast, because you can really have an adventure here in Hernando County, especially if you take a kayak down the river or out in the Gulf. This county has so much to offer from an adventure standpoint.
I agree with you 100% on that. And it is the reason why we started this YouTube channel, is to explore those types of things, not only here in Hernando County, but Pasco, Citrus, Levy counties, all the way up to Wakulla County near Tallahassee. So the Adventure Coast is great, and so is the Nature Coast. Let's go explore a little bit more around the park. So we're about to go inside the Mermaid Show, which is Hernando County's largest attraction. So maybe explain the Mermaid Show and the history behind it.
Well, the Mermaid Show is the brand of this attraction. It's what has made Weeki Wachee so famous, and of course the mermaids do that. But this theater is so unique, and it's because no one in the entire world could ever duplicate or replicate this theater. You have to remember, this theater was built in 1947. It's not the original theater that was built. The original theater only sat about 22 people. But this theater was built in the mid-50s when ABC Paramount used to own the park. Back then, there were really no laws prohibiting anyone to sink a 400-seat theater into a natural spring. Today, there is.
Yeah.
But because this theater has existed since the mid-1950s, we're grandfathered in, making this the only unique theater of its kind in the entire world. And a lot of people, ask me what makes the Mermaids so magical, what makes this park so magical. And I've always said it's not the mermaids by themselves, although they do a wonderful job, but it's a combination of the spring itself, in addition to the mermaids. Because even without the mermaids, when that curtain rises and you're sitting in that theater and you see this beautiful, magnificent first magnitude spring, it takes your breath away by itself.
Yeah.
Now throw in these beautiful mermaids performing the choreographed music. That's what makes the magic happen here at Weeki Wachee.
Yes, and I remember seeing this as a kid, and it was a great show. We wanted to go see the Mermaid Show,
Right.
and then people talk about Little Mermaid Under the Sea in the movies. I was like, we saw that before it was even a thing,
That's
right?
right. That's
So
exactly right.
it's a great show. So let's go on inside and check it out.